Oh, that's a good kitty, I say as I pet on Kitty.
No, I'm evil, kitty,
said Evil Kitty.
Happy 1-year anniversary to me! That's right, it's been a full year of Glamrock Dusky. A lot's happened, and I have you all to thank. I met some amazing new friends, I traveled farther alone than I've ever managed before, and I nearly died, but that's neither here nor there. There was a lot more good than bad. I mean, I met Dwako. That's pretty cool, yeah? And it all started with one virtual pet in particular, Kinito Pet, the one I made my first ever video on. So what better way to commemorate him than to review another virtual pet? This time, we're going a bit more obscure and reviewing Bubbaruka, an 8-bit style game implying itself to be a lost and cancelled Tamagotchi keychain. Years back, this game had a demo release and it ended up getting played by Manly Badass Hero, which is how I heard of it. After a few more years of development, the full game released on Steam on June 22nd, 2021 to... not much fanfare. And so here we are today, with me thinking of it sometimes just like forgotten, kinda wishing more people knew about it. That is, until my brain finally kicked into gear and said, hey, idiot, you're a YouTuber now, make a review. So what exactly is Bubbaruka? Well, it's a horror puzzle game mimicking a Tamagotchi, with a limited color palette and primitive graphics. In it, you'll explore the depths of an abandoned children's toy while being stalked by the decaying remains of scrapped character concepts. While trying to keep your pet alive, you must solve cryptic puzzles left behind by the long-gone developers. Fun fact, this game's name means Bubble Baby in Americanized Japanese, being made up of the Japanese word for bubble, babaru, and baby, Akachan, Bubbaruka. In universe, the game was developed by Kudimu. The game was developed by Supernova Studios, or Benjamin Shade, and cost $5 to purchase. For $5, this is honestly a pretty long game if you choose not to follow the official walkthrough. The puzzles can get extremely cryptic, and before I actually knew there was a walkthrough, it took me like an hour to get past the first part of one segment. Then again, I had my brain wiggle around a few weeks ago, so just in case it's just me, I am not gonna put puzzle difficulty on the cons list for this game. But without further ado, let's get into it. The game's intro is relatively simple. You can see the logo, you press start, or full screen if your monitor isn't as monstrous as mine, and you are greeted with 3 eggs. You can't really choose any others as they're locked, so you have to go with the black spotted one. On doing that, you then have to hatch it by repeatedly pressing the hatch button until it reveals a little creature named Tomo. You're then moved over to a virtual pet interface where you can see him running around, and you have 3 options: My Bubby, Food, and Games. I pick My Bubby first, which allows me to get a better look at Tomo, and also immediately rename him to Bumo for no real reason. In this game, you can also feed Bumo and pet Bumo. We have no food, so aggressive petting it is. But how do you get food? Simply head out to the wide view again and go to food to go to the grocery store, where you have 3 options: apples, broccoli, and pizza. While it may seem pointless initially, because the pizza is so much better sounding, it refills your bubby's hunger past maximum. Get some apples and broccoli too, you're gonna find out why later. If that was all your money, here's where the games button comes in. Bumo will find a coin occasionally if I leave him be, but a much more effective method of earning money is playing minigames, of which there is currently only one: Bubby Ski Time. Interesting choice, but it's got coins littered all over. Even if you have no food or money, and your bubby is starving and won't play, you can actually pet it to calm it down long enough to make it play a game anyway. We love soft lock prevention. Press the arrow keys to move back and forth to pick up coins and avoid snowdrifts, snowmen, and other things. Who the heck builds a snowman on a ski slope? It starts off innocent, but when you've got 10 points, aka coins, a path will open up to the side where you can steer your bubby into a strange house and enter an RPG-like mode. There's nothing in this room besides a note saying to remove this part of the game, and moving forward only results in what the game interprets as a minigame loss, booting you back to the pet menu. But you're probably gonna be stubborn and head back in. Doing this greets you with the same path as before, now locked with no etched in the ground. Yet continuing forward reveals the house has simply moved to the middle of the path, making re-entry unavoidable. This time, moving forward within the house doesn't immediately kick us out, so we're able to proceed deeper to find a series of hallways leading to several doors, as well as a note on the wall informing us of how to pause. Remember this, because this is how you can return to the pet menu if needed, aka if you need more food or more money. Entering this house doesn't prevent you from playing the ski game again, by the way, so that's how you get more money if you've already collected all coins present in the house map. of which there are a decent amount. As for why you'd need to buy more food, see the hunger meter showing up here? That's not technically hunger. Or well, it's called that, but it acts more as lives or health. This house is not safe, and each time you fail to protect your bubby from what makes it not safe, you'll lose a bit of hunger. Lose too much and you'll get an auto kick back to the pet menu, having to re-enter and start over on the first floor of the house, although anything you've unlocked stays that way. Won't say more to avoid spoiling all that's in there. Oh, and by the way, to re-enter the house, you just need to go to the ski game from the pet menu and select level 2. Okay, back to the first area of the house. Besides the pause note, there's 3 ways to check. On the right, there's a door blocked off with boards. Upwards, there's a door that is simply locked. To the left is the only way we can go for now, which leads into a room full of mannequins. There is a note on the wall, but to avoid just reading off everything in the game, because there are a lot of notes and monitors and whatnot, I'm gonna let you find those yourself and just use the important ones for putting together story recaps later. Downstairs is another diverging path where I take the left first to find a room containing a copy of Bumo and a large cat staring at each other. There is a room behind the cat that contains a computer and a key. Grab the key, but the computer won't turn on because there's no power in the house. Before using the hallway key, I check out the room to the left of this one. There's a portrait of a family on the wall and a vending machine. Remember the location of this vending machine if you want to get all the secrets in the game. Don't be like me who spent 30 minutes trying to remember where it was after I found out that I needed it. You can also buy a temporary speed increase from the vending machine for 100 coins if you'd like. There isn't anything else in this room of importance, although this locked up room here will open when we get to the point of turning on the power, so I can quickly touch on that before we leave since it has no bearing on game progression and is just an Easter egg. This room is the birthday room. It was left in game by a father for his child named Hikaru. We don't know who the father is yet. It contains dancing people in party hats, cake, and all the bubbies on a stage, plus a few coins. It also contains something else, a room a bit less joyful. If you enter the crack in the wall, you find this, a trashed dark room, footprints all over the floor, and angry writing on the walls from someone who seemingly used to be trapped here. Further into the room, you'll find a staircase, and if you go down, you'll be stuck in a black void, a heavily bit-crushed rendition of Claire de Lune playing in the background. I swear I saw someone exit this place in one of the videos of the demo, but I myself wandered for a while and couldn't find an exit. So maybe there is one, maybe there isn't. To avoid a long while of walking one direction, I'd recommend just closing and reopening the game, as there's an autosave when you turn on the power, and you have to do that to get in here. Let's return to the prior room. Exiting it and the one with the cat, I head downstairs to find a tablet on the floor. Interacting with the tablet shows a picture of the cat from before with a list of what appears to be name ideas. They settled on Mau Mau, and now we have a name to a face. Closing that, in the next room is a note from a confused developer concerned about the growing size of the game and cutting concepts, which I'm mentioning because it triggers a change. Heading back to the area with the tablet, all of the mannequins are now missing their heads, all throughout the map. Additionally, Mau Mau and the Bubby statue in the next room over are now missing. But more importantly, we're back near the start, so that means we can use the hallway key we got earlier. Remember, it's the topmost door in the area we started. Entering the new room, there are a few pathways. Taking the upper one leads to a room with a shutdown computer, a note, and more importantly, a crowbar. Now we have all 3 ways in the introductory room available to us, because if you remember, one of the doors needed something to pry bars off it with. Returning there and doing that, we get access to a new area as well as an actual map to follow. Although it's not great about showing where you are, that's my main issue with it, so I ended up ignoring it. The wall also has another note about Mau Mau, implying more about them. They were likely supposed to be some sort of threat to the bubbies. A Tamagotchi where there are predators. Now that is actually an interesting concept, but I could also see that resulting in a lot of crying children, so maybe let's not make that. An upper room shows more Mau Mau with a group of bubbies, some without faces. This is worth noting, or at least screenshotting. The room above us contains a chest key too. The chest to open with this is downwards from the room with the map, and it contains a VHS tape. Within the room with it is an entire row of stationary Mau Maus, and passing them by takes you to a closet that refuses to open, alongside a valve on the floor that you can pick up. But when you turn to leave, some of the Mau Maus are gone. On the journey to find somewhere to use the valve we found, as assumedly it operates something that uses steam, which this hidden away lift needs to operate, we find that the Mau-Maus have spread themselves all over the map. But as they seem to be harmless, we're free to get to the room we need and insert the valve onto a machine. Turning it unsticks the lever to the far left of the room, which we can then pull to restore the power. Now that the power is back on, all computers will work. On the way to figure out what to do next, we can insert the VHS we found earlier into one of the TVs that will now turn on.
I hate this channel.
After doing so, I try to head into the upper room, but my bubby is suddenly too hungry to play, and I'm booted to the pet menu. However, not everything is as it was before. All food is sold out, and we're forced to steal a pizza. And on leaving the food mart, things only get stranger. Until we're dropped back into the house. Damn, it doesn't look like we got to keep that pizza. Thankfully, I've still got the one broccoli I bought at the very start. You can actually feed your bubby when not in the pet interface by using the pause menu and scrolling to the apple icon. That's why I mentioned earlier that you should always carry extra food. Checking out that upper room properly this time, this is where that one picture of Mau-Mau with the group of bubbies comes in. That's a code. We need to grab the marker at the top of this room and draw faces on the bubbies in the order they're in the picture, and draw a face on the Mau-Mau up top. If done correctly, they vanish and leave behind a disc. Grab that, but before leaving, be sure to activate the circle next to them as well, as this connects to a teleporter elsewhere in the map. Next objective. There is a computer around the first part of the map that allows you to open the lockers in another room. I do so, and head to the lockers to grab the birthday pass out of them, return to the computer, and open up the gate. What gate? Actually, this is how you get into that birthday room I mentioned earlier. So it's not actually something that has an impact on the rest of the game, and instead what we actually have to do now is head to the lift to use the disc. On proceeding to the second floor, what do we know at this point? Well, the first floor had a little story, but primarily it was a lot of conceptual talk. It looks to be meant to set the scene for the rest of the floors to get into the interesting stuff. The actual story uncovered seems to imply three things. One, that the developers of the game were having trouble to getting it to fit on a keychain. Two, multiple notes refer to multiple predator types that were scrapped, but later in the development, one of them mysteriously returned, that one being Mau-Mau. Lastly, it looks like there was some infighting, primarily with Onaga, one of the lead developers and potentially a co-creator of the studio. Let's see if we can find out more on floor 2, that being codenamed Him. No, not that one. On arrival, I had right. Within the first door is a very important room, that being the room where you can make new discs. Typing the correct 3-letter word into it will produce a disc leading to the floor with the same name. So the objective of floor 2 is to find out what we need to type in. We actually already know the next floor, since TAR, aka floor 3, is written on the wall right next to the machine. But the machine needs a key, so there is perhaps a bit more fiddling around on floor 2 anyway. The necessary fiddling begins with taking the left path out of the intro room, leading to a room with a piano, chest, and closet that contains a hidden passageway. That passage just leads back to floor 1. What matters is the VHS tape you can find in the disc machine room. Insert it into the TV here and you'll receive a series of piano notes alongside a hint. Behind the vending machine. Disregard that for a second and enter the notes into the piano in the back of the room to obtain the keys to the disc machine. Now back to that hint before we go to floor 3. Remember when I told you to remember where the vending machine was? This game actually has multiple endings. The true ending can only be obtained by unlocking secret vaults, and the first key to this chapter's vault can be found if you return to that vending machine, move it to the side, and enter a secret room. In this room is a closet containing a bag of 100 coins coins and more piano notes on the back wall. Return to the piano room and enter this code instead, which will cause the light next to the first door we entered to light up. Return to that room to find a new key inside, this being the first vault key out of 2 in this chapter. Hold on to it for now. Before going to floor 3, there is one more thing we need to grab that, while optional, is very useful. Head right from the intro area and this time go all the way. In here there's a screwdriver. This allows you to open any vents you find. Now you're clear to get the tar disc from the machine and proceed to floor 3. Oh, hello! On arrival to Tar, we can actually find the vault I mentioned earlier. The first real thing we gotta do though is go down and get a VHS out of another drawing room. Although this one requires you to go back to floor 1 via the teleporter to draw on the bubbies as opposed to doing it on site. If you had the code right from back then though, this one's the same. So the cat should give you the tape right away. However, afterwards the power is knocked out, so you can't play it on the TV nearby. Instead, the new Mau Mau infestation only allows you to go to a narrow hallway to the left and unlock a door at the end. Conveniently, this leads back to the disc room, but we do not yet have the code for floor 4, so we head back to Tar, and now that the power is back on, we can watch the new VHS tape to get a series of letters and numbers, then to see Tomo heading back to the disc maker. The code refers to another room further into Tar, a parking lot where you can view the license plates on the cars. The VHS hints that you need to take the 3rd letter of the one starting with A, the 4th of the one starting with C, and the 1st of the one starting with B to spell out Finn, the name of floor 4. Now, story-wise, so far it looks like development is falling apart. Developers complain left and right, and the game's file size is exponentially building without anyone knowing what's causing it. Predator characters are scrapped to save file size. The task of removing Mau Mau is assigned to Onaga. He pushes back on it and refuses. A tragic event involving someone falling leads to office disputes. We head to Fidden now. This one won't be so quick. Entering, ominous music plays. Mau Mau appears to have gotten tired of just messing with you and is now on an active hunt for us. Avoid the crunched up music, and if we enter room 1 to the right, we can access the vents using the screwdriver from earlier. This allows us easier access to the other rooms without having to worry about Mau Mau. But be careful, if you spend too much time in here, he will come inside and begin quickly looking for you. There are also cracks in the floor that will turn to holes if walked over enough, dropping you back into the dangerous halls. So we avoid all that and make it to room 2. Which is pointless, we can't access the chest here. Room 3 instead then. Here we gotta do like a Pokemon strength puzzle with Mau Mau statues to access a tablet with a shape code, which we can enter in the upper part of room 1. However, I'd recommend also heading to a secret room within the vents to obtain another shape code. With both codes in hand, enter the first and press the button below to obtain a chest key. Then enter the second. This is for the second vault key. On entry, it will appear in the same room as before. Back on floor 2, and we can grab it before finishing off Finn by unlocking the chest in room 2, which contains a disc. This disc leads to the final floor. Art. We briefly detour to unlock the vault on floor 3 before heading there. If we don't unlock the vault, we'll actually get a warning that we're missing a secret, so don't worry about forgetting, and don't worry that it doesn't open yet. And now it's the final fight. Yeah, this game has actual boss segments against each chapter's enemy, which is actually pretty awesome. We're heading in to contend against Evil Kitty himself, Mau Mau, or the cat, I guess. We drop into a dark hallway and are given controls and an objective. Find 5 coins and do not get caught. Mau Mau wanders the maze and can be detected by loud breathing sounds. If he sees us, we only have a brief second to get turned around and start running. But what's nice is if he does catch us, we don't lose hunger. At least, I don't think you do, because there is no pause menu here. So you have infinite tries, presumably. Now, I have a few issues with this segment actually. Initially, when I saw this in videos, I wasn't aware of how it felt to play. And with this game being made in RPG Maker, it's pretty impressive that it features a full first-person segment. But because it was made in a limited engine, it was done in a limited fashion. The controls here feel very sticky in a way, like the character takes a minute to actually move. And don't get me started on the turning. While it looks okay if you're looking only at the first-person perspective, it is somehow slippery instead of sticky, and you'll often end up turning more than you meant to while trying to make a quick movement to start getting away from Mau Mau. And it's horrendous to use if you do what I did and simply look at the map for navigation instead of the first person because of the markings showing where the coins are. I got a lot of footage of me encountering Mau Mau and doing impromptu pirouettes rather than trying anything to get away. Even with its quirks though, if you learn to just tap the buttons rather than holding them, the section's not too bad at all. So we can avoid his breathing like normal and get out safely. And we won Bubby Ski Time! Hooray! Oh, just kidding. Well, I'll just let him sleep that off. That was Bubbaruka's Chapter 1. Equal parts cute and horrifying, this chapter sets the scene for the game's next 2 chapters to get a lot more messed up, because it's not trying to fool you anymore. I mean, going into this, I admit some of it even messed with me, and normally I don't react that strongly to horror games. It might be that you're getting attached to these little guys, and then, well, yeah, it gets worse than being cut in half. But before we get into Chapter 2, this story is just getting started. So let's do a quick recap of what little we know so far. And now is when we're gonna get into a lot of the notes. No, I absolutely did not go through my footage and write down every single one I could find. No, I'm not crazy. They put me in a rubber room. Bubbaruka was going to be a keychain game similar to Tamagotchi's, and it was being developed by Kudemu, a development studio started by 2 men who I believe were Onaga Yamazaki and either Akarai Okamoto or Masaki Otsuka. Development started off well, with the ambitious developers adding a lot of interesting concepts, getting the public excited. Maybe too many concepts, because they then realized that in order for the game to fit on a keychain, a lot of that had to be scrapped. They started off with scrapping 2 of the 3 predators planned for the game, leaving only one, Mau Mau. For a while, Mau Mau stayed as the only hunter of the pets, until he too ended up on the chopping block, presumably for the sake of space. The task of getting rid of Mau Mau was assigned to Onaga. However, Onaga was suffering from an unknown event in his life, and either procrastinated or refused to remove the cat from the game until being encouraged to do so by an unknown person who claimed to be able to reinstate him after his removal. Onaga then became extremely reclusive and irritable towards his coworkers, lashing out at them and silently self-destructing. As the unknown entity placed Mau Mau back into the game, it begins to behave strangely as development quickly takes a downhill turn. Someone puts strange imagery around the office. Crashes plague the game, and the file size keeps mysteriously increasing even when no employees should be present at the office. Masaki finds the front door unlocked all the time after all, so someone's coming back overnight and adding more. So much for a keychain. After Bumo's untimely end of life, the game violently crashes, so we gotta reboot it, finding ourselves right back at the start. Oh, isn't that Bumo's egg? Oh well, I didn't want it anyway. Guess we're picking this one actually, and it contains this little guy, named Mibu. Now the goal here is about the same as Chapter 1 initially. It's a good idea to get food before heading into the minigame for this Bubby Spy Time, where things then get strange. However, I am gonna do something a little different. I skipped a lot of the notes in Chapter 1 because they were relatively light and mostly went over surface level stuff you'd expect from a game development studio, albeit one that's not being managed very well. The ones coming up though are significantly more important in my opinion, trumped only by the ones in the next chapter. So when I feel they contain important text, I'll actually read them off this time. So let's go into Bubby Spy Time. It's what it sounds like. You gotta try and look for Mibu in 3 different maps, and have 60 seconds to find him. Although I couldn't manage to find him myself right now, I figured out later that he has some shape-shifting capability and can appear as houses, tables, etc. Look for his eyes. Although, the true objective here is to leave the bounds of the map, it doesn't matter which one, and locate the upper half of Bumo's, or properly Tomo's, corpse. This allows us to enter a messy version of the map and enter a distorted house in the center to begin the chapter's exploration segment. It seems this time we're looking through the main office section of Kudemu headquarters. We spawn right near the exit, but it would be too easy if we could just head on out. No, we're gonna need a level 3 keycard for that. A secondary objective, as we soon find, is to turn the power on here, just like in the last location. So the only option is to head downstairs into what even the location itself dictates as abandoned. These doors lead to the independent offices of those who used to work here. The first door we should enter is Onaga's. He's apparently out to lunch. Is it just me though, or is 5 awfully late to be returning from lunch? Doesn't matter. Right inside is Artie, Who or what is Artie? Was it what was left to rot? We don't know right now. We can only leave it be and proceed left to find a note that I believe connects to one we can find in Chapter 1. As stated by that chapter, Akarai took over as director on Bubbaruka, so he'd be in charge of what makes it in. An additional note in the chapter mentions someone overreacting to what I assume was the predator mechanic being added. I think this is a response to that developer, and that this was mostly about adding Mau Mau and the other two predators, because as far as we know right now, they'd be able to cause direct injury to your bubby if not scared off in time. So in short, it's possible that the true reason Mau Mau was scrapped was not storage concerns, but rather that Akarai thought his and the others' method of hunting was too much for a kid's game. Anyway, rant aside, we must also proceed to decide where RT makes his way out. Something tells me that's not the last we'll see of him. Oh yeah, he's just parked himself up here. But a tablet on the ground shows a picture of him that betrays he's not meant to be here and was officially removed. What's the trend with removed things in this game? Isn't it usually, not fun? We'll keep our distance instead and open up the rightmost closet to get the first keycard with level 1 clearance. Okay, and back out we go to... See? I absolutely freaking knew it. And I'm not even gonna question how a metal robot is doing that. He went down, so let's not go down and instead go left. In here is the next part to the true ending. There's a vault just like Tomo's, and this is why Tomo's didn't open it first. We have to remove the drawbar on this side, and then we can actually go back into Tomo's area from Chapter 1, which is looking a bit worse for wear. There is actually something to do here, but we don't have what we need for it yet. Just remember where this is. Additionally, reading the note on the wall reveals that these vaults were created by someone, presumably a developer, who was on our side. Backing out of Onaga's office, we need to go pursue Artie now. He's still focused on making a break for this room over here, which we can also get into with the keycard we got. But as we're on the true ending path, it's actually the perfect moment to make a stop in the lower room instead, where all the furniture laughs at us. Okay, come on, Bibu might not look conventional, but you don't have to be rude. Why are we here? Well, that window up there is part of how we're gonna remove the locks from Bibu's vault too. Yes, he and Tomo have their own. Climbing through the window grants entry to a small room with a disc inside. And we know Tomo's lift used discs, so try piecing together what we gotta do. Indeed, back in Tomo's area, placing the disc onto his lift allows access to a new floor. Bet. How much? It's quite small, but contains the very useful stylish boots, which provide a movement speed increase for the rest of the chapter. This item is hilariously juxtaposed by the horrifying note on the floor. One more thing I personally enjoyed about this room is the music, which is an 8-bit rendition of Bach's Little. I know that because I'm very cultured, and not at all just because it had a boss remix in my favorite game ever. That's all to do in here though. Back to what we were doing, the robot stuff. As expected, after all we saw him go in here, we gotta avoid the robot-turned-sludge monster as he patrols the halls. He's faster than us if he sees us, so let's be extra careful, and we can't stick around at the entrance for long as he pretty much immediately paths up here. Instead, the best move is to head left, where we eventually run into arrows we can follow from here into the generator room. It contains Nanako's key, which is great because we still kinda don't know the password to actually use the generator. And indeed, Nanako's office contains the generator code, and a first idea of what's going on. A picture. Oh, and Tomo's bottom half is also over here in a box. Let's just maybe saran wrap that and get out of here, why don't we? It fits on his upper half that's blocking a lower hallway in the introductory area, and we'll open that up for us if placed.
Phil Swift here for Flex Tape.
A quick backtrack through Artie's cubicles, and we can get the power back on and scare him off for now. With the power back on, just like before, some computers will now work. If we head into Nanako's office, there's an unfinished email we can read. More talk about that picture. But more importantly, it looks like we know now that it was Onaga spreading it around. From what everything's been saying, it sounds like looking looking at this picture causes one to be unable to get said picture out of their mind as they're gradually driven insane. But then why would Onaga want to spread this? What does the picture contain? And it doesn't seem like most of the developers even know who the picture originated from. It seems like Nanako knowing who had it was almost targeted. And there's even more information if we return to Onaga's office and check his computer, showing a disapproving email from Akarai revealing that Onaga, beyond throwing around some nasty picture, was also tampering with Bubbaruka, possibly even putting said picture in there too. This guy's a real piece of work. That only leaves one main developer out of 4 unaffected by this picture, and that's Masaki, but his office is locked. Enough milling over that for now. The next important location is the last door on the right side of the main hall. Heading down the stairs here leads to a hall with a password entry station. Next to that is a room where we can once again find Artie, who seems to have tried to become Tomo this time. He drops the level 2 keycard after he's done being dramatic, causing multiple glitched Artie clones to spread over the map. This card allows us access to the roof via the door in the back of Onaga's office. On the floor is an angry note from Masaki, presumably addressed to Akarai. He's pissed that Akarai scrapped Artie pretty much immediately on taking over the company, especially when he planned on Artie being the game's mascot. Okay, you know what? I'd be mad too if I were Artie, that is totally fair. For what it's worth, you're still my favorite. But the roof hides something else besides injustice. Warning, it gets dark for a second here, skip to this time to avoid discussion of whatever we're using instead of the actual word nowadays. On the roof are several coins. Obviously we want those, but walking around to get them, the camera reveals footsteps leading off the roof. Uh-oh. And next to those footsteps is a note. It's probably from whoever went over the edge. They put up a good fight, but in the end, were forced to see the picture, and so they took matters into their own hands. I really like when visual storytelling does brief, chilling stuff like this. It doesn't tell you more than you need, but it's still so obvious. The roof has a vault key to the left of the unfortunate scene. Don't forget it before you leave and ignore whoever's hating down there. I guarantee you it does work, and do not forget to use it before the chapter ends. We just don't yet because the next key needs a level 3 keycard, and it's just more convenient to go back when we have both. Rather, we head out of this area and proceed towards Akarai's office now, accessible with our new level 2 clearance. It is absolutely trashed in here. Notes written in mysterious liquid, a shattered TV, the ramblings of a madman screeching about faces in his skull, and a copy of the picture itself is on the wall, drawn over with desperation. The contents of the picture are now revealed. Behind all of this is the face of the creature. And it seems like this guy's not anything new either, originating or at least having been around as far back as 1896. Bubbaruka in Universe began development nearly 100 years after that. What does it want with a Tamagotchi keychain in its development studio? It's unfortunate we can't do anything for Akarai now, but he's left something helpful behind. The password for the station we found before accessing the roof. Before we leave, what else we got in here? Not much left. Perhaps the first dialogue we can reasonably assume is from Creature himself. Never been in one of these before? He's probably talking about having never infested a keychain toy. The note this leaves behind is also interesting. It's from Onaga, so it's nothing good. He's left concept art for Akarai to review, and you know what? I'm betting this is how he got that picture to him. And it looks like he'd already dealt with Nanako at this point. Exiting the room, the outside is looking worse. Now even Creature is getting in on the graffiti game, and oh hi Artie, what's this form? You're looking like one of those things from that game I'm too scared to play. He makes a break for the bottom room. But wait, we didn't enter that password Akarai had. Placing the transparent film over the paper in the first aid station reveals the full thing if you need help. This allows access to the dining hall, and guess who's also hungry? All we need in here is a lever, but Artie's milling around in here and will charge very quickly if he sees us. We gotta make it to the kitchen in the bottom right to get a lever. Intermission for more Onaga shenanigans. Entering where we saw Artie go earlier. The only place open in here is a little locker room up top where we learn that the one unaffected developer, Masaki, actually started working on a way to stop the influence of the creature. Are we ready for this? I freaking guess so. Using that lever we got earlier on the machine with the hourglass symbol unlocks the gate, blocking off what is one of the trickier Artie sections of this chapter. At first, the power's on and nothing is a threat to you, but after a while it'll flicker and go out, and that's when Artie's eyes can can be seen in the darkness. He'll chase you if you're spotted, and the real kicker here is that you better not go into a room while they can see you, because they'll come right on in after you. But it's not the end of the world. There is a generator around the bottom of the map that you can crank a few times to restore the power and temporarily chase RT off. This is the only one in this section though. So alternatives to being safe are entering rooms when the power's on, since doing so makes it stay on the whole time you're in there. Just be careful that this does not reset the cooldown outside. Or exiting and re-entering the area to restore the power to its intro state, which I found has the longest grace period before it shuts off. To clear this area, we're gonna need several levers to power these machines, which you can see have symbols on the top. The symbols mean that when each machine is activated, it'll activate devices and open gates that share that symbol. No hesitation, off to find the levers. First, we're off to the mail room to the left of the area. There are 4 letters to open for 4 highlighted numbers, forming a code according to how the letters are ordered. The contents aren't useless beyond that, however. They appear to be written by former employees different from the main developers. And one connects to a note we saw earlier. Onaga said before that Nanako had been out for 4 days. This letter says they've been trapped for 4 days. Coincidence? I'm beginning to think these people weren't just trapped in the office, they were trapped in the game itself. What else could the outside mean? And there's more than just this. Tons of the writing seen on the wall suggests a lot of people ended up here, and were likely hunted down by the malevolent scrapped concepts if all the fearful allusions to eyes in the dark and he's still watching are anything to go by. Ouch. The numbers from these letters translate into shapes on this box in the lower section of the room. For example, the first part of the code is triangle, because letter 1 contained the number 3 and a triangle has 3 sides. Opening the box, we find one of the 2 levers we need. The closest machine is the swirl symbol one, so that's the one we activate with it. It opens multiple gates, and one now allows us into the server room. A lockpick sits at the right end of the room next to a note. Yeah, in my opinion, this confirms it. They were stuck in the game. So why do we need a lockpick? There was a closet in that one room in the intro to this area with the note about Misaki, and it was locked with a simple padlock. We can pick it to access the contents, those being the last lever we need. Great, I've had enough of this. The last machine is to the right of the room with the generator, in a room previously blocked by a swirl symbol gate. It opens up the exit to the area and the door in the lounge. Now get ready. When we exit this room, we gotta just gun it downwards because no matter what, RT will be right behind you. Avoiding the slowing tar puddles, we can make it to the room at the end of the hall where he'll stop pursuing. Another note about Masaki's attachment to RT, but it also mentions a warning thing alongside Mao Mao. Whatever infected the game, likely creature, is probably the one who put them all back. It matches up with the earlier note from Onaga about an unidentified male who told him he could put Mao Mao back after Onaga removed him. And in they all go. Y'all go? Is this thing southern? Probably refers to either the scrapped concepts or everyone creature was shoving into the game. We're nearing an end now. Heading over to the lounge, the gate is open as previously stated. Inside the new room lies the level 3 keycard, but we're still not done with our little metal friend. RT has yet another new form and stalks these cubicles in a burrowing form that can only be seen as a tiny black lump on the ground. This time, he's faster than you. Listen out for the burrowing sounds he makes. Instead of getting that keycard right away, on the far right of the maze is a pair of scissors we need first, since the card is within a tied-up closet on the far left of the maze. Watch out, opening this triggers RT to automatically aggro. Running out the door we came from, we're almost done now. All that would be left to do is exit if we didn't care about the vaults. However, we do care about the vaults, so the second key is a bit tricky. You need to go to the first floor courtyard, but not the one with the normal exit. Instead, there's a sort of back door accessible via the area where RT previously messed with the power. In this area of the courtyard, there is a security room we need to enter to obtain the second key from a chest. Now we can exit through the normal door where we started all of this, to have a nice peaceful walk through the... Never mind. Oh, so you're on a first name basis with RT, but not Mao Mao? Come on, man, show some respect to my boy. Jokes aside, this is probably my favorite boss fight in the game. I thought Mao Mao's was okay, but this one was pretty fun. Maybe because it takes influence from Five Nights at Freddy's. And it was still fun when I had to play it multiple times, cause somehow I managed to get the game stuck in a loop of Chapter 2. Speaks to its quality, but I appreciate the dev helping me out there, because I did still want to play Chapter 3. We start off with a view of a room with 5 entry points. Only see 4? Count the puddle on the ground. that's 5. Nothing's gonna happen though until we turn around to see an arcade machine. We need to play this arcade machine and navigate the maze, collecting 50 coins total to beat it. It's not that simple though. Once you begin playing, you're in danger. Remember how I said entry points earlier? RT can come through any one of those at any time while you're playing. You have to pay very close attention to the noise behind you, and if you hear static or other ominous grinding sounds, turn around immediately. RT will be trying to enter the room through any of the 5 points. He'll use a different form for each. Scare him off quickly with your light, and make sure to aim for the eyes. Your cursor should turn into an eye, and that's how you'll know if you're doing it right, in the case of forms without clearly visible eyes like the claw one. When you're safe, head back to the arcade game, rinse and repeat until you've got all the coins. It's not too hard, but it's also not too easy, especially because the arcade game's noises are cleverly made to distract you from the actual dangerous noises. I developed the strategy of turning around every so often regardless of whether or not I heard something, because I did die once when I genuinely hadn't heard anything from behind me. Once you've gotten those 50 coins, you're not out of the woods just yet. Now there's no game and it's just time to survive. RT will begin attacking faster from all points. Thankfully though, it's not long before he gives up and we finally win Bubby's spy time. Just be warned, it's a bit more brutal than the last one. Now that was just unnecessary. And that's all for Chapter 2. As the game crashes once again, it's time to review what we know about the story before we head into the final stretch. It looks like I was wrong about the creators of the studio. Looks more like Kodemu had 4 main developers: Onaga, Akarai, Masaki, and Nanako. Akarai became director, and then they had other employees working in the cubicles within the office area. Even if Onaga wasn't a co-creator, as he seems to answer to Akarai, he could still have more power because he's confirmed to have created most, if not all, of the Bubbies based on drawings by his son, Hikaru. And then that also means he's the one who created that birthday room, and by extension, that prison within it. It remains to be seen who might have been trapped there. Further speaking on Onaga, he wasn't good to work with. Very soon into development, he began to go off the rails. He added things to the game that should never have been there, brought back concepts never meant to be used, and most importantly, he began to spread a picture. He'd likely seen it first. He was likely infected first. It was a picture so terrible, so obscene, yet so captivating that no one could look away. And he spread that picture through the entirety of the development studio. Showed the employees, showed the visitors, showed his leading coworkers, and it drove them insane. The true face of the creature contained within the photo, once seen, latched onto their minds and refused to leave. The creature absorbed and ate them, but also placed the souls of those consumed into the game, trapped forever with no physical form to return to. In the end, no one survived as the relentless fragments of their own scrapped concepts picked them off one by one. Except, there was one. One person left unaffected, Masaki. As he became aware of the spreading insanity, he put a plan into motion to delete the creature, delete his face, stop him from corrupting the game and those around it any further. He prepares a list. Vaults are built with hidden keys out of the creature's view. He hides secret beneficial items and his own key far away. And finally, the floppy disk, the final key to deleting him. But how is this floppy disk going to stop the madness? It looks like we have to head into Chapter 3 to find out. We don't even get a chance to try and pick previous eggs this time. They are pretty much immediately wiped out. That leaves us with one, an egg containing flow. Flu? Flow? Yeah, I don't know, there we go. Death Grips. Grips minigame involves us growing flowers outside a building. First, you have to plant them, then you must be on the lookout for any that are being attacked by pests. Successfully protecting a flower till it reaches maturity will grant coins when you collect it. Then you can plant a new one. Question: what separates Grip here from the flowers he grows? What makes you superior, child? This pretty much goes forever until you exit at the bottom or until you walk up to the church and knock. Enough knocking and we are granted access to this chapter's exploration, starting off in this building. But there's not much in here, only warnings of what's ahead. Warnings and death, and we're already out of the building, entering the dark woods. Right in front of us is a sick dog with flies hovering around it. It's got a strange arrow symbol above it. We can't help it right now, but we also can't proceed due to arrow-like spikes stabbing out of the ground ahead. So what do? We head back to the intro area and find the exit sign, moving past it to a lower forest area. There are gravestones all around and a sign. The text doesn't even fit. It's like the game's almost breaking down at this point. But past the sign, there's some puppy medicine. We can head back and use it on the dog to cure it. I can't have anything, man! So now things have gone wrong. Very wrong. This begins the first segment of Chapter 3, where we must navigate and escape the forest while being pursued by the infected and mutated Bow Wow, one of the game's original predators alongside Mau Mau. But thankfully, at least we have a readable map this time, acquirable behind where we lost Bow Wow. It's got a ton marked on it, and the landmarks here are much easier to discern compared to an office building. My one new issue with it is how curvy it is. In fact, just how curvy all the maps in this chapter are. It makes them kinda hard to follow because the actual layout of the map is not curvy at all. It only uses straight walls. Anyway, while following this map, Bow Wow is always looking for you and moving throughout the forest in an unpredictable manner. And to make matters worse, he only occasionally makes a loud, glitchy barking sound. And if he catches you, it's not instant death this time. You will instead be infected with Warn, which is what he has. It may not turn you into something like him, but this is a death sentence if you let it stay on you long enough. Not just because it slows you down and makes it harder to run from Bow Wow, but because from stage 1 it takes about 5 minutes for it to automatically kill you. Additionally, getting caught again by Bow Wow advances your sickness 1 stage every time it happens, so that's not advisable. To cure the sickness, you need to find the medicine capsule for this map. It never despawns, so if you remember where it is, you can essentially keep going forever. To make some actual progress, we use the map to find the 3 houses marked near the left bottom corner of the forest. The sign in the center tells us to find the arrows and the order, then count. I could not find these stupid arrows, but they are marked in the center of the map. If I were not stupid, we'd have to count the number of arrows pointing in different directions and put them in the order given, which is up, left, down, right. If done correctly, you'd end up with the code for the keypad in the bottommost house. Entering it unlocks house 2, which contains a lockpick and a chest. That's it for this one. We climb down the well just upwards from the houses to use that lockpick on a door in the tunnels. Traversing the tunnels, more notes are left behind, one looking to be from Onaga about his son. Hikaru may have died at a young age, revealing what troubling event was happening in Onaga's life all the way back in Chapter 1. Why he got so difficult to work with, besides the freaky creature in his head. Yet, somehow the creature helped Onaga preserve Hikaru. What that means is yet to be known, but I'd hazard a guess it's similar to what happened to the employees. Let's keep going for now. The door above that note is the one we need to unlock with the pick. Inside, there are 2 pictures, one put together, the other scrambled. Now, I'm terrible with slide puzzles, but this one was the absolute hardest I've ever done. So watch me as I power through what might be one of the most difficult challenges known to man with nothing but my genius intellect. Yeah, it may or may not be randomized. Anyway, solving it causes it to fall off the wall and reveal the code to unlock House 1. House 1 contains a pair of bolt cutters and a note from Akarai. He's been hiding out in this forest, apparently hiding from Onaga. He must have been one of the last to fall, or perhaps this is after he'd ended up in the game and he was attempting to avoid dying for real? The house in the center of the map is where to head next, via a teleporter on the floor. Run to the back to open up a second door, and don't stop running because Bow Wow is gonna be hot on your tail until you make it to the basement and grab a gas can. While he gives us a brief break in here, that's not the case as we leave, making a break for the boat at the upper right of the map as the forest degrades into corrupted textures. Diving into the boat just in time, thus ends the first segment of the chapter. But hold on, we missed a bit of information. Let's go back for a second. There are several notes we didn't check. The first is in the final house from Onaga. It details his continued work on Bubbaruka far after it was abandoned, all under instruction by the creature, and it urges us to continue playing because that is what he wants. To never even turn off the computer. Besides, this is a computer with an email from Onaga as well, directed at Akarai, saying he's found him. If so, I don't imagine he made it much longer than that. We can also find Akarai's fire that he mentioned earlier. Around the left of the map was a house that didn't seem to serve much importance, but next to it is an abandoned, unlit campfire. It has to be this one, or the one marked on the map at the campsite. Or perhaps he used both before hiding in the caverns at the back of the map after running out of safe places outside. It's likely, since there is a campfire here too, and a note from Onaga about him. This time it shows more of Onaga's fear of the creature and what can happen if he fails it, saying he doesn't want to end up like Nanako. I guess Nanako was one of the few to refuse to give in to the creature. Besides Akarai's problems, there are signs listing news articles covering the fact that the game was cancelled at this point and that all 4 lead developers were currently missing. Finally, there may not be a vault here to unlock, but there is a secret key we can obtain to access the watchtower marked next to the important houses, and it contains additional lore information. It may seem odd at first, but I think this note being from a ranger indicates Akarai had not ended up in the game at this point and was instead living in a forest away from the offices, stealing rations and supplies. This is most likely more a representation of what he went through, as opposed to actual remnants of his presence in the game. Ending off, the note in the corner of the room confirms that Akarai wasn't seen like Onaga like he thought, but by a park ranger. So now we've got more of the story here figured out. In the forest, Akarai ran to stay away from Onaga, who was now fully under control and influence of the creature. He jumped between hiding places, avoiding both Onaga and the park rangers until eventually being found, likely in the caverns. It's not clear what happened to him after that. Back to the present, we've arrived at some caves. Like before, the path is blocked by arrows before we locate a sick bat nearby. We also need to cure the bat like before, but just like Bow Wow, it's not feeling well for long. The mutated Babu now stalks the caves and will infect us with Warn if we are caught. But unlike Bow Wow, it is not constantly near us. Babu will always be stalking the caves, but he's only a problem if he's in the same room as you. When he is, he'll take a specific path through, making loud flapping sounds while doing so. Stay perfectly still and out of his path and he won't harm you at all. Move at all though and he'll be right behind you in no time and will not lose aggro until you manage to enter a shelter. If you're not paying attention, he can give you a mild heart attack when he suddenly emerges from a door. If you are though, you'll notice that before he enters a room, a faint musical cue plays. That is your chance to get to a safe place before he arrives, because if you're in his flight path, he'll touch you even if you're still and get you infected anyway. Thankfully, all Warn-infected antagonists immediately despawn after infecting you, so you don't have to worry about getting comboed. After Babu starts his hunt, now that the arrows are gone, we receive a new map for this area. A note nearby states the objective. To escape the caves, we need to clear the river with dynamite that we can find in Nanako's house. The key to that house has been hidden in the cave. First though, marked on the new map is a machine in the bottom right. We are to head there first, where there is an improved map to pick up. It adds to our map the locations of 4 batteries we must pick up in order to power the machine. It also adds the location of this map's medicine, which is extremely useful as far as I found, the last area's map didn't. Before even finding the medicine, I was promptly pursued by Babu after attempting to cure him. He ended up chasing me into a part of the map where there stood a single house. Inside the house was an additional note from Onaga, expanding slightly on his plot to find Akarai. Apparently, he didn't find Akarai in the last cave system, but maybe this one instead. Besides the note, there's also a pickaxe in here. It's not what you'd be advised to grab first, but we're here, so might as well. Conveniently, the map's medicine is right outside, so I can quickly fix the Warn infection, but I'm also noticing a campfire down there. I'm wondering if this little house was a tent to go with that, possibly making up Akarai's final hiding spot. So, back to where we're meant to be, finding the batteries and powering the generator will open up the marked gate in front of Nanako's house, where we can get that key we need. Before the batteries, to make sure we can get to all of them right away, we need to go to the upper left of the map to retrieve a transparent film. Now we have everything we need to collect the batteries, so off we go, avoiding Babu all the way. Or not. We should start with the tougher batteries to get. One battery is within the lockers in the room opposite the medicine room. That one is what the transparent film is for because it had the code for the combination lock. The second, more complicated battery is to the left of Nanako's house, behind rocks that we must destroy with the pickaxe. For the last 2 less bothersome batteries, One is stuck to a spiderweb in the Figure 8 section of the map, while the one to the right of Nanako's house is behind a coffin you can simply push to the side. With all the batteries in hand, we run back to the machine and turn it on to lift the gate and grant access to Nanako's house. Now, there's not much we need for Nanako's house, but still, she has a lot to say, and we can hear it virtually directly from her. You'll hear an awful crying coming from within the house on arrival, and as it gets louder, there is a note on the wall. Seemingly, while Masaki was trying to get rid of the creature, Akurai's role in the rebels against the creature was trying to fix the people already infected with him, and Creature definitely knew this, hence why he so viciously sent Onaga after him in the woods. Therefore, Creature definitely hated Akurai alongside Masaki, and once Nanako spoke to him and Creature found out, that was it for Nanako. But unlike the others Creature got to, his anger with Nanako was far more extreme. Akurai, one way or another, died, but Nanako did not get that privilege. Moving to the room above, we can find her here, or at least a representation of how she's doing now. She still lives on, but as a shell of her former self. She is constantly tortured mentally and physically to this day, locked away in a mental institution. It is confirmed a bit later on. Now that we're done witnessing the eternal damnation of a newly turned mad woman, we ought to grab the dynamite and get away from all this. Let me just scooch past you there, and great, thank you. Good luck with all that. Bye. All that's left to do is get rid of the blockage in front of our boat. Oh, and engage in a high-speed chase with a horrible mutated bat. Once that's done, we better hope there's nothing more, because I don't think that boat is going anywhere else anytime soon. Thought this segment was short? Yeah, it honestly was. Yet, my gameplay recording for this was still an hour long from all the waiting and running from Bubbu, so I think the stealth pads it out and makes it feel about the same length as the previous one. I don't dislike the stealth though. It's a nice change of pace from just having a chasing enemy, yet you're still on your toes constantly. As a matter of fact, I just really like that all the enemies in this game behave differently. They could have had them all just wander around and chase you, but they've got little independent quirks. It keeps things feeling fresh. My one critique with not just this segment but the last one and the ones ahead would be the inability to pick up the medicine and take it with you so you're not constantly running back and forth all the time. Maybe it's like that for difficulty's sake, but I imagine you could maybe just allow one at a time and it'd still be fine. We didn't find out too much news story stuff this go round, but there was more chilling stuff about Akurai, and that stuff with Nanako, I don't know if I'm like scared when I play this game, but it does genuinely unsettle me. And it's not often that games do that nowadays. Heading into the last bit before the final stretch now. Welcome to Bubbyville! Here, the notes are getting more personal, speaking directly to us. They are from the creator of these assets. They've been speaking to us through most of Chapter 3 actually, advising us on where the medicine is, where keys are, how to proceed, like needing to use the dynamite. We don't really know who this is yet, though clearly they aren't on Creature's shit list if he's let them control our experience, so you might already have a guess. But, well, let's see if his little sticky notes can help us through this last mess. So the little guy to totally definitely cure for real here is a snowman called Nubby. The thing about him is, he's everywhere. He patrols Bubbyville, chases if he sees you, yeah, but you see these additional snowmen hanging around? He can take those over, just straight up duplicating himself for multiple points of death at once. Thankfully, the indicator that he's near is fairly easy to hear, and there are a good amount of things to use to hide if he's passing through, plus plenty of buildings to enter to automatically break aggro. He's only really a massive threat during more structured sequences that tend to take place inside. Anyway, our benefactor says that the key to getting out of here is getting a new boat with the keys for it hidden in the church. There aren't a lot of places to go yet, but they can be unlocked. In front of Food Mart is a car blocking the entrance. To investigate inside, first the tire must be replaced, and like any car, it needs car keys. The tire is in the mechanic's parking lot. Inside is a note from Onaga begging Akurai for help with a police case involving Hikaru. He's being accused of hurting him. It sounds like he wants to bribe the police. Speaking of the police, the keys for that car are in the security room of the police department. Notes within the department speak of a hostage situation having taken place at the Food Mart and an injured officer having lost his badge there. Another reason to get inside. Additionally, a bulletin board on the wall follows up on Onaga's note. Looks like the bribe worked. More information on that case is right outside the church, describing discrepancies in the autopsy of the victim. Assumedly Hikaru, who was 8 when he passed. Jeez. As for that hostage situation, more info on it is in the evidence room. The suspect gave Jones a photo and he was sent to the hospital with it? Uh-oh. After we've got the keys, sounds like we oughta head over to the food mart to get that car sorted. Inside food mart, there is one half of the badge Jones lost. A note nearby mentions the other may be still on his person, at the hospital. There are also a lot of snowmen in here. I don't like that. Yes, see, there was a reason I did not like that. Getting out of here without getting infected is difficult. However, we are going to the hospital. As expected of a hospital, there is medicine here. Maybe it's not usually lying around on the floor, but I'm not picky. Notes here suggest as much as expected when they mentioned the photo was sent here. Screaming nurses running around the halls. In the hospital basement, there is a strange statue. It opens the basement when a crest, found behind a desk in the psych ward, is put in. Wonder what else is in the basement? To start, a fuse to grab, then a note from a staff member describing Creature's demands for them to send the picture to the doctors and scatter copies in the halls so even the patients see them. Come in for one trauma, leave with another. How about the closets? Oh, no, thanks, I don't want in on that party. One more note is present down here explaining the maintenance key's been left with a Jessie, who works a double shift at the adoption center. Off you go then. Now, the adoption center sucks. Not even a moment before it's overrun with nubbies. Their sight isn't great and there are many hiding spots, but this place is long and each one behaves differently. The maintenance key is in the back in a crib, but if you get caught trying to get it, you're slapped right back to the entrance. No worn grace period this time. At least you're not stuck sick from it, but it means we can't cheese it, darn. Getting out is harder. I'm not sure the nubbies' movement paths were adjusted to accommodate you going backwards, but you can sort of cheat by getting caught to advance backwards a checkpoint to the exit. The maintenance key unlocks the elevator panel back at the hospital, allowing the fuse to be placed as well. One Among Us task later and we have access to the second floor. Room 1394, where Jones was cared for, is unlocked and entry reveals a bloody scene where a doctor, under the delirium of Creature, had attempted unauthorized brain surgery on the officer. Removing a black grease from his brain ultimately kills him, and the grease vanishes afterwards. Besides horrifying revelations, there's also a hospital badge in the operating room, and the second half of Jones's badge is found in the morgue. Since, you know, with the complete badge, it can be returned to the evidence room at the police station, where we can also get the keys to the church and to the holding cells just downwards. In the holding cells is Masaki's key? Right. True ending with no vault in this chapter yet, could have forgotten. To follow up on that, the Bubby we're playing as right now owns the flower shop, so he can unlock it with no extra backtracking. The only Chapter 3 vault is in here, to access Mibu's area again so we can use Masaki's key. The floppy disk he mentioned is in here, with another normal disk. Notes on the wall detail what he's put on that disk. Some strange console settings for a file he doesn't recognize. Progressing backwards again to Tomo's area, that disk unlocks floor Run. Firstly, it contains an upgrade to our light range, and secondly, it has a giant physical debug console. Inserting the floppy allows the system to scan for a glitchy file that it then allows you to delete. And that is it for the true ending requirements. What did we delete? We'll find out later. In the church, we solved the puzzle on the lectern. You don't need to know how long it took me. I chose to check behind the lectern as well, and is it really a surprise that Hikaru didn't fall down the stairs? I just grabbed the boat keys to leave, escaping several nubbies and Bubbyville in the process. So the boat arrives at a house. Whose house? Oh, nobody's, just Onaga himself, no big deal. There is no boat to find, no key to collect, no further we can go in this game. Yet he's awfully casual about it, for most of this anyway, back home.
I love you.
Before we really get into this final area, I want to mention the music. It's a bit grating, yes, and it's not all that complex, but I think it might be the best track in the game. And why? I can't explain it, but it just gives you this feeling of something really bad happened here. This place is condemned. That sort of feeling like you absolutely should not be here. It fits perfectly with just how chilling Onaga's final actions were and what we will find out happened in this house. So starting off in here, in this room is an interesting note. It reveals that the little pictures of bubbies, both rejected and used, were created by Onaga's son. If we look back at the last 3 enemies we've dealt with, Bow Wow, Bubbu, and Nubby, they are all rejected concepts whose pictures you can find lying around in the earlier chapters. Sounds like Creature really just took everything he could get for firepower, I guess. Additionally, in this room begins Onaga's confession. This will be continuous. Throughout his house, Onaga tells us everything from start to end, almost as if to explain, just to apologize for it all. Sort of like a villain explaining their plan, but more tragic in a way. To start, he mentions that he first saw the creature in 1995 when its photo fell out of a game development book at the library. But there's not many other places to go that aren't blocked off by warn arrows. In a room nearby, the final infected critter, Prubble, can be found. Beside him is a note where Creature speaks instead of Onaga, demanding that we go to the basement. Final objective noted, thank you. As predicted, curing Prubble goes terribly. He might be the least worst of the enemies, though. He isn't a constant presence in the house, unlike even Bubbu. His chases are pretty random but somewhat infrequent, and there's no way to avoid provoking him, but outside them he is not active, so there is no need to worry about constantly avoiding him. His first chase is right after you cure him. After getting got, I just wandered into Onaga and Anita's room, where I found out that Creature had wanted Onaga to wait to show him to his wife, but he didn't, because the woman was threatening to take Hikaru and divorce him, so he essentially brain-melted her in response. Very mature. The Afflicted's room is to the left of this one. Nothing from Anita herself in here, but there's an incredibly apathetic note from Onaga about how he feels about his wife dying. He even goes so far as to act like he's jealous. In Anita's bathroom is a mural piece, accompanied by Logan Paul's favorite thing to film. Let's not dwell on that. Unfortunately, after grabbing the mural piece, heading outside prompts Prubble to dash up the stairs, so off we go to get lost again. My chosen place to get lost in ends up being a playroom. And hoo boy, as if this guy couldn't sound like a worse dad. Besides that, there's a crank on the floor, and a picture on the wall where the mural piece fits in. In the next room, a decidedly more horrifying item in the form of Mibu's corpse this time. Gotta collect them all. Ever so conveniently, I've been infected this whole time, so when Prubble chases me on leaving the room, I don't last through another hit. At least you all get to see the death animation, I guess. After dying, I go back to the basement, and it is here we can use the crank to get into the basement, right where the beast wants us. 2 plates stand in the way. On each, the corpse of the pictured Bubby must be placed. Onaga also has some thoughts about them. It's nice to hear that he understands Masaki's feelings after, you know, he got him killed. Sarcasm. Forget this noise, I'm jumping down the evil hole. Oh, wait, right, boss fights. Who haven't we fought yet? Well, turns out Warren is a standalone entity when he wants to be. God, imagine if the flu could physically hunt you down and that's how people caught it. It's nice of Creature not to keep me too long, but maybe I wish he did, because this boss is a point-and-click game, and I have never been a fan or good at those. But nothing I can do except step forward into the... Wait, hold on. Okay, there we go. In this section, we're essentially going through Onaga's house again. This time, though, in first person. Ultimately, we have to gain access to areas gradually until we are able to access Hikaru's room as Onaga directs, all while learning the last bits of the Yamazaki family's story, and being hunted down by Warren. Hilariously, despite being a giant eye, he can't see shit, but he is very sensitive to light. Warren is not always present. However, if he is, he'll flash on the screen and you'll be told to hide. Arrows will gradually rise from the floor of the house until you can find a hiding spot. Wait too long and he'll find you. But be careful about the hiding spot you pick, as each has a differing mechanic. I generally went for closets as they were the simplest. You just have to keep your light behind the clothes as he moves them. I'm not sure about the cabinet spots, but I know the curtains had you going to the opposite side of him, or at least I guessed that was the case, but I died anyway. If you genuinely can't figure the mechanic out, or you don't care to bother, you can also turn your light off with Q. But don't keep it off too long, as eyes will fade into existence on screen and eventually kill you. If you feel like doing neither of these strategies, there is a camera in Onaga's room you can use to flashbang him once for each battery you find. You get one for free. So with that in mind, we do have a map to follow, and it highlights our current room, thank God. Okay, so I'm gonna be a bit of a speed demon with this. First, we need the key behind the picture in the left hallway. That's for the bathroom where we turn on the hot water to reveal a code on the mirror. Generally, Warren spawns around now, so be aware of that. The code is for a drawer on the second floor, which contains the key to the playroom. Under the kitchen sink, there is also a screwdriver. Lastly, we can enter the playroom to unscrew the jack-in-the-box's crank, taking that to use on the gate of the basement. In there, unscrewing the vent leads to another bathroom containing the final key to Hikaru's room. Finally, in his room, we interact with what I believe to be baby Hikaru himself to trigger a final chase with Warren, where you have a tight time limit to navigate out of the room, back to the vents, through the halls, and out the front door. I must say, while I never played Clock Tower, this reminds me a lot of it. It's very faithful to the style of puzzle navigation games like that used back in the day. I just wish I was clever enough to understand it without a walkthrough. So finally, we are out of Bubby Garden time! Except we know we didn't win. We know we didn't win. You know what? You have to go play the game to see that. I don't like this one. Now there's nothing else. What more is there? All my pets are dead. Every enemy has been fought. What left? What more indeed? Starting the game again is different. It does not matter who you pick. He's been waiting a long time, but we're finally right where Creature wants us. He just needs us to walk a little further, but we don't have anyone left to control to get there, except one Bubby we were never even supposed to use. That's right, as we move closer to Creature, we control Artie, the scrapped Bubby and our former enemy. And as Artie makes the trek, Creature speaks to us, explains what he's after, apologizes for the trouble. And what does he say? Onaga, apparently still alive after all this time, has been adding to the game for years. Creature seems to have let him do so as long as he fulfilled his role in the plan, as he slowly got rid of his coworkers and former friends. But now you're here! You're real! You're alive! And I have something I've waited a long time to show you. This is the deepest you can go. I'll be waiting. One more thing lies between you and I. Onaga has waited a long time to meet his successor. He is the last creature in the game, the only thing stopping us from meeting. You are so close! Don't fail them. Don't let their sacrifices be in vain. I can't wait to see you. So, freaking hold on. That is Onaga! You could have had any ultimate form and you chose to give up your arms to become a dentist's worst nightmare. Dude, I think this guy was messed up even before the Eldritch Beast got to him. Alright, enough making fun of Onaga. Time for the final boss! Yes, it has a final boss. And the start is pretty cool. We are sent back through each boss fight in the game, always with the goal of finding a knife and giving Mr. Pearly Whites the old 1-2. I cannot be serious. First, Mau Mau's Maze. Then, Artie's Arcade. The alliteration is convenient but unintentional. It behaves sort of how it used to. Ironically, with Artie now as the player, but it still ends in a good... Finally, Warren's house. Onaga might be able to check hiding spots too, but still, I am armed and dangerous. Onaga eventually gets sick of my arm jokes and grows a few in response. I make light of this, but it's my way of coping with this final part. Onaga is done screwing around and is actually initiating the one true boss fight in the game. But let me just show you the video I have of this. Take a look at the runtime. This took me nearly an hour, and let's go over why. Now to preface Onaga's fight, would I do it again? Hell no. Would I beat it damageless? No. It's not a bad fight, but there are places I feel it could be improved, namely in the telegraphing department. During the fight, there isn't a lot of direct attacking going on. You get a break period between attacks while the guy just does his little dance, and you can use this opportunity to grab hearts that occasionally spawn. You only get 5 hits, so do not miss those. But when Onaga does attack, he has 8 entire attacks he can choose. Let me review each one. 1. Static Ball Volley. This is one of 2 attacks you can use to damage him. Balls will rapidly fire from the left and right edges of the screen. Moving up and down is the best move to dodge it, but to do damage to Onaga, you must attack at the right time to reflect balls back at him. Don't try for too many at once, sometimes they are genuinely too fast to properly time an attack to, and the weapon swinging feels a bit slow and flimsy, so visually it's a bit hard to figure out the right rhythm at first. Attack 2! Static Ball Rain. This is the same, but it's from the top. Best strat is to stay on the bottom and reflect when able. Attack 3, Rings. I hate rings, man. The way this is supposed to work is as you move, you spawn rings that eventually cut loose and come at you, flaring out before vanishing. The thing is, there's no clear visual indicator when the attack begins, so often I'd be waiting for Onaga to do something after a break period before being blasted with a ring because I didn't realize he was doing that attack and they were spawning under me the whole time I was sitting there. I eventually just started moving all the time during breaks. Attack 4, Static Cannon. I hate this one too. Onaga follows you around for a bit and then releases a big static burst. It's fine initially, but when you've damaged him enough and he's in phase 2, the range is larger and he is faster. At that point, it is pretty difficult to get out of the massive range he gets, and I almost always got hit even while sprinting. Oh, a quick mention of the sprint. Not gonna lie, it feels like there is no point to walking. I'm pretty sure every attack moves faster than your walk speed, so my pinky finger was damn sore after an hour of holding it. Attack 5, Spider Legs. Now this one is weird. Initially, I thought this was near impossible to dodge, but as it turns out, there is a pattern here. If you just move in an upright pattern, you'll be fine. However, something the game does not tell you is you can attack these legs to deal massive damage to Onaga. It is way more efficient than reflecting balls, and you can pretty much wipe him in like 3 rounds of this. You just have to be careful not to take too much damage from them while you do so. Do not try it if you're not confident. Attack 6, Mau Mau. He just chases you around. He's a bit unpredictable, so it's best to just try and get a lot of distance and not turn much. Eventually he leaves through the bottom. Attack 7, Artie. I got confused on this because generally you're supposed to avoid the attacks in boss fights, but then I was getting hit all the time and I was getting upset. Well, it turns out you actually have to go and chase him until you scare him off with your light. It can be tricky because he keeps teleporting.
Yeah, get out of here.
And lastly, Attack 8, Worn Puddles. I did not have that much trouble with these. It's just a couple of obstacles that persist into future attacks before going away. Hitting them infects you and slows you down, and then eventually damages you. That's it for attacks. He has a phase 2 as I mentioned before, but it just makes the place a bit dark and buffs up every attack's effects. And how do you beat him? Simple, knock off all his legs. He will lose pairs as he takes damage, so that's 4 cycles you gotta do. Though if you're good, you can get several of them off at once. And thusly, the final obstacle is defeated. That's 4, well, like hundreds of people, dude. Have fun at the Has-Been Hotel or whatever. Now, let us gloat. Hey, nuh-uh, stay down. Oh, hello. I swear it was self-defense.
You did it! You are a very obedient one. I appreciate your cooperation. Have you pieced it together yet? Who made this game and why? It doesn't matter anyway. Now you're here with me. Look at me. Look at my face. My real face. Don't be scared. You were scared too. forget. You will forget. Do not forget. Welcome home.
But wait! It's Tomo! He blocks the creature's face and whips us off to outside the boss. Creature is understandably pissed and charges after us. And the game starts doing some window shenanigans, of which I didn't manage to capture entirely, but I did my best. He starts pulling out all the stops and using every attack he has to block the path. And when he gets real desperate, if you take too long to leave a room, he sends the actual shed skin of Onaga after you. Ew! But his barrage of insults and scary hands is not enough. Until it is enough. Now properly pissed, Creature addresses us once again, and he is not being nearly as gentle as before.
You were doomed to fail from the start. Alone, sad, and weak. When you are alone, you are nothing.
But we're not! Guess who I've got on my side? 3 tiny squishy cute things. That'll stop you. Wait, and someone else. Someone Creature isn't taking seriously. Not yet. The two of them get into an argument. Creature attempts to talk over them while they take out everything on him, enacting the murder methods of all 3 bubbies on the grinning face. Does it work? No. He puts himself right back together and gets back to his grand, real face reveal. Unfortunately for him, guess what was on that floppy from earlier? Data must be stored somewhere. We deleted his real face. Now he's feeling just a little bit less mighty, isn't he? Oh yeah, he's pissed. And thus he hastily tries to rebuild his face, shutting us out while he gets dressed. Collect the knife as the voice suggests. We can't let him show his true face. The voice begs us not to screw it up. The spider legs of Onaga grab us from behind to show what Creature's rebuilt. And it sure is something. It's not his true face, though. He tries to summon that from inside, but a good knife to the chest puts a stop to that. And Creature, along with his face, is destroyed by the fabric of the game itself. And that's it! Jeez, that was a lot! But everyone is happy now! Everywhere in the game is now free of Creature, and the revived bubbies clean it up, fix what they can, and get some relaxation after going through hell. Good for them! This is adorable to watch. And at the end of it all, our friend invites us to come back anytime. Thank you, I will. After a nap. But to cut the feel-good for just a second, what happens in the bad ending? Well, it's about the same up until Creature moves to show his face. Since we didn't delete it, there would be nothing to stop this if the voice didn't step in. Interrupting Creature, they take us away as long as they can and encourage us to restart and to look a little deeper this time. They are determined not to let that beast take away their last chance at freedom like he took their family. Wait a minute. Is that? Maybe it isn't my secret to tell. I'll let him hold on to it for now. With the bad ending spoken on, that's actually it for Bubbaruka this time. And so with that comes one more segment I feel I gotta do. Finally, after everything, here is my final recap of the entirety of Bubbaruka's story. It's probably not entirely accurate, but that's the thing about games like this. It's meant to make you think and theorize. Heck, FNAF did this and it started a whole genre on YouTube. Okay, I'll stop yapping about that and start yapping about virtual pets and murder! Bubbaruka was going to be a keychain game similar to Tamagotchis. It was being developed by Kodimu, a development studio started by two men, who I believe were Onaga Yamazaki and Akarai Okamoto. Development started off well, with the ambitious developers adding a lot of interesting concepts, getting the public excited. Maybe too many concepts. Presumably with the intention of changing direction to a more structured one, the current director, Masaki, leaves the studio in Akarai's hands, stepping down to become a programmer instead. Akarai began with big changes. The first of those changes was scrapping the game's slated mascot, Artie, due to his glitchiness. This enraged Masaki, creating a wedge between the lead developers. Elsewhere, Onaga visits a library to research and potentially bring back to the studio a few books on game development. When he picks one up, a Polaroid falls out from between the pages. On seeing it, the course of his life is irreversibly altered, as the picture contained the true face of an entity known only as Creature. It immediately took hold of his mind and its roots began to grow as he returned to the studio in the form of a ticking time bomb. The Creature compels him to integrate it into Bubbaruka, and he does so. As Akarai's reign as director continued, more of the game became subject to scrapping. Predators had been introduced one by one, first Mau Mau, then later Bow Wow, but Bow Wow was soon after removed to save space. For a while, Mau Mau stayed as the only hunter of the pets, until he too ended up on the chopping block because Akarai thought he and the concept of predators overall were too violent, and thusly, the concept of Bubby Death was entirely removed. That is, until it wasn't. The file size begins to increase randomly overnight, and Masaki notices the front door mysteriously unlocked at the start of most shifts, meaning someone has been sneaking in or staying late to add more, and suddenly more developers begin to notice the scrapped data returning. Mau Mau begins randomly appearing, attacking and crashing the game. Artie, scrapped ages before him, somehow manages a comeback as well. Similarly, his appearance crashes the game. Alongside the two is Warn, known then just as a warning sign for Bubby's sickness, which was supposed to be removed alongside death. Between the three of them, the game is nearly unplayable, plagued by glitches. Strange pictures begin to appear all over the office, both in the spaces of lead developers and hired cubicle developers. Staring at the true face of the Creature begins to drive everyone in the studio mad. They lose their minds to insanity, and some don't even make it to death before being pulled into the game by Creature, where they turn against one another, vandalizing the in-game spaces, stealing what little food there is, as one by one they are picked off by the concepts they once tried to remove. Back with Onaga, the Creature begins to take more and more hold over his mind, rewarding him for obedience with his greatest pleasures, but gradually causing him to become more and more reclusive and irritable, even towards his own family. He begins to torment his wife Anita. He harshly beats and tortures his son Hikaru. Creature insists he wait to show his wife the picture though. He tries to obey, but can't for long as Anita begins threatening divorce for how he's been treating Hikaru. He shows her the picture. With Anita now unable to support the boy, Onaga's unchecked violence goes so far that he ends up taking Hikaru's life. In a torturous moment of clarity, he realizes what he's done, falling into deep grief. Onaga says Hikaru fell down the stairs. The police launch an investigation, not believing his story. Desperate, Onaga pleads with Akarai for help. He doesn't have the funds to deal with this. Suddenly, the police cease the investigations. After all, Kodimu is the #1 financial supporter of the local police. Why would they sabotage their #1 son? Onaga is beside himself with grief. Even despite Creature's influence, he's near unable to work on the game. That is, until Creature makes a proposal. In return for Onaga's obedience, he will preserve Hikaru in some manner. It's back on. But what of the others still suffering? Anita, now nearly mentally gone, travels to the food mart and takes 7 people hostage, forcing them to see the picture with threat of violent force. When the police arrive, one of them ends up seeing it too, instantly suffering from its effects. He's rushed to the hospital in critical condition, but of course, when he arrives, so does the picture. One staff, Jackson, is patient 0. He carries out showing and sending the picture to the rest of staff and doctors. One such doctor, Dr. Samuels, admits Officer Jones into brain surgery in no sound mind, thinking perhaps if he can take it out of Jones's head, he can get it out of his own. He doesn't even sedate the man. He cuts his scalp open as he screams, and he finds black grease physically growing in the man's brain. He removes it with his bare hands. Officer Jones flatlines at 2:48 a.m. The grease is nowhere to be found on the pieces. Back at the office, amidst the chaos, there is one main developer left unaffected by the creature thus far, barely escaping its grasp. Nanako is undergoing the early stages of the infection, having seen the creature after Onaga hung the first round of pictures around the office. Akarai is resisting, but has little time left before disobedience causes death. But Masaki hasn't seen it yet. He'd never even noticed the photos. Gradually, he realizes what's happening as the office devolves into chaos. Onaga won't let anyone leave, breaks the landlines, and takes everyone's phones. Masaki finally finds a strange file extension in the game that does not appear in the folders, only the console. He suspects that it might be the cause of all the problems, and despite their differences, takes it to Akarai on a disc. They work separately on different tasks with one goal: stop the mystery entity and free those trapped. Akarai sends out an executive notice to destroy all copies of Bubbaruka and to cease production on any related media. Masaki makes progress in sabotaging the creature's plans. Once aware of what he is facing, he puts a plan into motion to delete the creature, delete its face, and stop him from corrupting the game and those around it any further. He prepares a list. Vaults are built with hidden keys out of the creature's view. He hides secret beneficial items and his own key far away. And finally, the floppy disk that contains the mysterious file, aka Creature's true face as represented by Data, the reason he can control the game in the first place, and how he could spread his influence were anyone to play it. Masaki successfully exiles Creature into the deepest parts of the game, with plenty of preventative measures and guides in place, so if anyone ever finds the game, they may carry out the plan to remove him from it forever. But as Akarai was already infected, it was only a matter of time before Creature didn't want to play games anymore. With the last bits of clarity Akarai has, he flees to the woods. In a desperate bid, he attempts to convince Onaga to stop listening to the creature, that there could be a way to fix everyone, that they could work together. Unfortunately, it's fruitless. So only one remains, who is soon rewarded for his obedience. He watched over the game, watched over the creature, until someone had to go and mess it all up. Yeah, it was me, baby! I sure do love causing problems. I'm the only one allowed to be a creature around here, buddy. Learn your place. Well, that was Bubbaruka. And it was also the longest video I think I've ever made. God, what did this take me, like a month? And I'm totally late for my anniversary. I've never covered a game this narrative heavy. I'm worried it kinda turned out more like a walkthrough than a review, but even if it did, I hope you still enjoyed it. I think this game has ended up as one of my favorite horror games, which is great because it has a post-game I haven't even touched on. If you got the true ending, you get access to a ton of extra content, and can help the bubbies clean up old areas, rehabilitate previous enemies, and banish the last remnants of Creature from the game for good. I've been playing it casually in my spare time just because it's fun and I want to see my little guys happy. Not Warren though. Warren is in gay baby jail. I highly recommend trying this DLC sometime. You get to actually beat up the monsters now, and it's free! Overall, even if the game did break a lot on me because of my YouTuber strategy of playing it in bits at a time, the save system absolutely hates me. I'm not judging it based on that, especially because the whole time the dev was very helpful and responsive to my issues, with patches for big things coming almost right away after I sent a message. Bubbaruka sticks out in a genre that nowadays has similar stories over and over again. It's a shame it didn't get a lot of time in the sun, so if you made it to the end, and you're here right now, why not help fix that? It's just $5. Go on! Look at my true face and tell me no.